I'll read it for Shaksaani Peak. Virtual meetings are basically modern seances. There's someone who wants to join us. We du ka du tuasigu ha khande wagludi. Elizabeth, are you there? Elizabeth, we du gewa we can't hear you. Itu acht. Can you hear us? Ha iya achtke.
Okay, cheese.
I showed this to the nerds last night. They were helping me.
Kadenya segech we ʼuchtutluqhi. Gonna cheese ya gi achtuasagu isatini dasada. Yejikhane. Atata we yutuchtatan. Ya yutuchatankoi. Khoach chak. We what's that do a sock? The Tlingit sai qaqaqwashi let's Guchsa. Oh, yeah, I do.
Shagutke, Heenyach, Kahin, Kayak, is that right and left?
Gachtakashu, aya, duchedach aya tledi hin, choach. Yisitinge, we chat. Gwell, we naadaayi hin, yich away. Nakide awa wuchak away. Has iskak. Aka awich ak, you do a sock. Ak. Ya qat qaluk qatil. Hilcha sugar owa adeka do did sek o ya. Chitle we naadaayi hin yich has wuchak. Achawe we khat tla. Ditawasaku kone aya achiwanak akahaku. Ye awe gachtaka shuko oha in kaunik. Kone aya ye yawaka. De hin one chak. Like de hin one atak. Ye awa has awa tak we hin one. Achawe has to tawasaku has to yetki. Has ausaku gusa has to neatly. Ye awe kahak adach aya akade has a jiwa naksu has to lately. Ya has to ish. I itch awa has ḳusteeyí. We chat yadi. Naadaayi hin aya. Ich kide we klini ade. Ye awe we chat ade has ḳusteeyí ye. Ye a dat you tuchwatank. Dat wasa a dat aya. Wuch in you chagach titlaat. Hin tak. Ja, the cut that was hin tak yag ka ade yag hin tak. The cut at hin yik koa gwashwe Tlingit hini good. Aka away the cut at hin tak. 18 koa wan kanins. Ye kastage nach away aya nach katlan. Kash atayich aya yekakwati hin yik. We yak koa ka we gach hin yik yata ḳusteeyí we unsaqatlan wasaqatlan awe a joy hin yik aya gwasliat aya ka a kaye yeti one kanins gwas hin tak awe adach aya yata hin one a joy we khat hin one has our has uwa tak Hín ʼayaaḳ chagugsa we hín qatlatk wuch in hasta teach. Hín yaach yat ayach wal de ʼayaaḳuwdlig we hín ʼayaaḳ hín yaach. Ye awa de tsu de ʼayaaḳ we gugsa we ashu ʼayaaḳuwdlig. De yaach wal roadside you do a saga. Ye awa ach tuasa gukone aya ka I tu a de has quwdlig ya khat kwani. Ye awa kahak a chiwanak. Ye awa hin tak hin yik. Gwal hin yik a jawe just atas karlitz is atas wutlahash. Ya has du khus ko a achayach yati. Ye awa a kachoy has a kwan. Ja, hin tak has aushagut hin tak wukak. Acho we gach hin tade has wukak has to atchai ga. Adre wan qalins hin tak aya has to saitin. Ja Xóotsx tsu wutusaku. Khunach hin tak wan qalins aya wukak. Ye awa yik ade tututla adi we hin dat. Ja asai tsu quwdlig. Gwalliat ayach naadaayi hin. Wan qalins just hin naadaayi hin qa. Naadaayi hin tsu. Khat hini. Hin klein. Ye awe gwall asai quwdlig tsu just hin. Qat hini. Teach hini. Jadasa chak hini. Ye awa hin. Shukwa ach adat aya yutachwatank. We naadaayi hin. Gwal hin kakwadana yat ayach adat yutachtatansu. Ye awa adat ye jachane ya yaki. Ya achtuas guyi waqshiyi ye ḵusteeyí. Ilchish.
Tlingit.
Okay. Dasatsu. Ya achtuas gu. Kedena ya gachtusa achi. Gwal shukwa ayi. Masaya wadlaq. Gothiata. Dis yekakesitin achtuasagu kedin aya isa achi qa. Qone aya yuqakwatan. Kleka Caucasian winnets aya nach achanach aya duqeidch gachtusa ach. Klech achtua qa yidat gachtu tu. Ja du yuqatangi. Gwalla itcha dachte hin ka gachtu ach. Yewa achtuasagu. Ja just kliat ge awa yachwadlaq. Ja ach chunkien ach kanian. Waita we dua achchi ataqa has quwashian. Qanak qoa du GAUT. Hu oe yawadlaq. Du llil qidach. Qodne aya yakuhihin giyune. Qatawus geju. Wai Juan. Qodne yakuhih.
خط ate khan ḳusteeyí ate khan ʻayaaḳuwdlig ya shkalneegí you naadaayi ya ʻqa'u ya taaqka na haya hastutaat shkalneegí ya tu'a yaaygi kakwanik tinkaat yaawakhi ya tis ate khan ḳusteeyí ya kautetnik suqaanaq ya shkalneegí qawa'u ya ʻqa'u ya qanana ate khaya ya qhataan te ya qanahayn taaqu iti yiyawdu sa taaqu iti aya yana ete ya qanahayn aya ya shaatke tu'uish keelkaya aan ingetsite ashkaqwasha aya yana et qa'a wa'aat yawdatani ya yana et yaadaqnatuyan aya hawaasaya wayukoodkiisaya ullik'ut ya tu'aayi ya shaatke tatay ya yana ati ya Xóotsx X kaasu'aat yeeso akhlaawakut artishukaxlaanakut aya itiqaya yankawutliyasqi ya shaatke aya kaqaya kayqususiqatli ate ya aqataan takhatutaayayate ate ye yawaq ye yusiqa wasaqsiyaka tasqaqanatesa tlitnaqska toqqaqaqaq yu qatank ate kaawaqeeya ate teyiqaqin yanjitni wataqne awaat un wasaqsi awaat yaquullikut waajaanas at ayaan taasi yu ayawdu wasaayatik ayaan taasi ate ya ayaqat qaako to ayaan taasin qoqqut jiwahaaye at yeeqayatoqa nakutst to taasacht eskutkhana hut tunaqawa'aatka ataqkatahaan ataqquneekut taasa aqtaqaya quniuwakuttu aqaatukueta yaanakut suku yututsane yutuiskailka yu'aan inkeetsatiya tusuku huyatakueta yaanakut asiit qeewatan asiit qataaniyaas atiit qawsite atiyis eskiyaasqaa'aata tlaxuayis qaatajiwa'atka aqayaa waqiitasuwa atqatatiyaa aqaqi Dewa asawa xe. Atlosa ute tlingit ayutuwa ita tlingit susuku tlingit atwasa ute. Wakan suita sa ute hakuk taskene sa tha. kata uta wukwe akais. Yan ni sa tahayi tayo suat. Ang sa utayi Tlingit isuko Tlingit. Kot kate usikte at katin ʼayaaḳuwdlig. Shaawát katin ʼayaaḳuwdlig. Okau kiti the Tawuyuna a ḥusteeyí Kaya the 2 hour nuk goed. The yin ʼayaaḳuwdlig to Lishoog Tlingit. A kaya stayaka. It's also to take. It's also ḥusteeyí. The kaya ḥusteeyí. Sugait ḥusteeyí. That's Tlingit kag. Dat is gedaan ḥusteeyí. Ataya. That's ḥusteeyí ḥusteeyí. Das was the two to Lishoog Tlingit to work. It was it. One is a ḥusteeyí to work. Yes, there were, yes, there was a heart in the year. A cover Saháan. Heart on it. At Khan, ʼayaaḥuwdlig Tlingit. Has at Khan the work. At Khan Sakaya Satana. Ya kan. You do in Shah. This good. The hint had a Shakaya Datana. Ukikak. Oh, hook dat we zich ook oude ʻayaaḳuwdlig kan. Was ik kan. Wordt in as ʻayaaḳuwdlig. Dat het zo'n doet ook je gewoon niet. Want niet had een aard. Dus zijn kittig. Kaya gaat net schoot. Och kenakate kahkakotete kakakik. Ja, dan is het na ate ja has de kenakate kahkayes kahkayes. Koud de kiki kan kakawa koud de kiki. Daar dacht ik kan. Toen ʻayaaḳuwdlig koud kiest. We heen is het hier. Wanneer zie ik dat je het is wel als ik ook ja toch de jachtzaad moet ik dat niet dan ja gaat gaan uit die als het gaan uit die is de oog wat kan ik zet kijk de tijd ʻayaaḳuwdlig zo tijd het is het je het weten. Tlingit ich dachte, die dachte het staat. We gaan ate. Die wat wanneer ik kon dat het zo. Gaat het dat de taak niet is het te gaan. Het te gaan. Han hawa ḥusteeyí asakha hawa hascho hasat khan wat ya qulna naatiyah hasat khan Tunakkeedejan astuqaan nawata teqiawaqa te taqutuakun taak aan niitte Saháan utqaan aaniitahi taaqayahatia aatahanas quqtuta aasaa aanik yeewatituakun qiisi taatasayakuka qai astuti aan xusteeyí yahasutqaane awate tataqaanaqatuute wayana at wakinte atuwayayutsiqaawat ko Shaawát ʼayaaḳuwdlig Tayaaste ayaawatin tuikasatna atkiya ayaawatin aduwa aan qasaqlayek taaqqa katuatastai aquuka tuaqqu hitawa tutliek anuaniwa hit ayinaqesuwa ayinaqyahasat qunaas qisakshiwa qawli taakutikik wana qasqe qawli taakutikik yasiutsiqa maasiaqiya utqanka Tlingit qasiaaqaya iya utqanka yukinawo aqquteeqya yutaqkanata katu awa asin aawatiq tuadasu akasuwa atso qawata aan awliyaqto taayasute yaqawata taaqiti te awa taaqasayautinaqwatu tuikas ututsitin huut qusiiti taqaqawllissuutu qusiiti awayeetuwa saaqo yeetu saaqun taaqo qawt keetlitutsinnuuk qatusluktawaayuwaduwa saaqo keetltin aawa'aat ayayayawduwa saa keetltinasu'aat aawa'aat tutayuhiti taqaqawaatuikas yuutsuunay taqawanas teqalqaas hasta qutiini wakeek nesteqalqatsayaqutsuunat nesteqalqaasayaqawayate teqaqaan kuutusinaqayawulliyanaqnilqatakaan ʼayaaḥuwdlig oaaqtakut qantaqoqtasakutlikt sayanatit yaaqawatsu hitusuku etakutlikt waket qawahas hasta qutiini yu'uwduwasa hasta qutiini uwa hasata yu'tawaitat suwaqawayeyate tawayatinat وخوتوخويته وحاقوتيني نشترك الحيج أقواس قد تقوت قندي وشكت ونزولي تكان خوته هذا هو تاق وقوت سوى كوك وكيت استقوش أها تكانخ أتكتي وتسكن أقوى يا يوسق وتشد كنت تكانخ توته تكانخ توته الخوت يخسن أتكتكو وصا أتك خساقيا ساتي تاوتي وتي تقاق ستيقة شاوات ستيي أتك خساقيا أقوت أودهاندو تتخانته أتيدي خبقتكان تأتيدي أدوية يوسقاوات أخوخ إيه جاء إيه يقندك شيء يقندك جاء إيه كان ينتنا أتكي إيه أي كاكس ستكاي تكوتني اختاقا يوسنيتن اختاقا يعوتي تتخانته أقاوتا وانا اشتاقة تتخات وخوش وتونت هو تاقتي وانا أعوخت وكيت هو أعوت وشعوت تايدا ودخيت تايدا أعوتن تؤيكس كيتي أيام فاويخكو كتنوكي أسوسخا كسو ودي تتخوخت كيت تاس كيت تاقها يوا وساء أدوه كان ستكس كان يخان سني واسعة تلو اقتبو شيء عيد خاشي وكوك وقعتي يقاوتي أقاو وكك ويا تقا أتنكو يخنس كيت تكتو أي يخنس كيت أي تخ تاكلنا كنت واوستين وتونت وكيت تأو تاوت تأخ وتونت فيك يقوشي كوتي أكت ستين خطايا كيكي خيخيك يكاني أوه تشكتوت قاني سته إك إتا يسمسخا أخناعتي تنا تسقاعات جوادي وكوتين مكاونيك هاكاني أوه يخطى خاخشاك يسكتوت قاني ستي يكاني أو ها عدنكو يجك واتيق وأنك دو تقيق سقطخا أو أخ تريد كيدخ أنا كوشي أخي تجي قاسي قاتهني أو يقيا قد قاسي دوتك أنتو هو قواي وكيك أتاكو تشيك تكاوت خندة وكود تتاقى تئيش يوا كيسو وأد أنا أديتين هاي تشكوه وأيتي أتعاتي والنقل أنا قول شيئا وكيتي قد تكون قلنا كود وكاد قلنا كاد قتيو يا كاد قلنا وكنت الشيء يا دو خوخ أنت تخشك أتو الشيء يا شيخ كود يتخوخ وناو يتتاقى كتاقى خوتها يقيو سقالي أنا يقع تقى يخوك كاحث تكا أتيد أو دواءك أو آد أقوتها خون كونك يدني ينخش تنسيق خون كونك ينخش تنسيق سيكوا أو أقاتك أعتق كونا دو تقاخ وقا شكواتي قا وقا هون خوتين تاتي توش كنت قيقة تتيه أقاتي وتسكتا كنت قيقة تتيخيق تهاندك خيتاكوا صدق قتيه تقيقة تتيخ كانخ أدوات تقيقة تقيقة توتي هاي تقيقة تتيخ تهود تقاط تخواتي يسوى ينخنا شوآت تقيو تياس حقيو أكيد نكو التيخ تشيك تهو أتنقكوت تيوس أتو تقاط أتو تقاط وأسك تشونتين هالتجاي كوياتي أنا خاطي تخني والنكت تياتي كناو تقاق نكت آواتك تياتي قسيك وتكيت سيك سيك خسيتي وتتيه تقتيه وتسي كونو كونك كوتسا كاكو أتانا كوت آخر توئين هالتوئي خدا شيخ تتأهود على خوتك توئي خدشي تتأهود تتيتي يخشوتك وتن تتأهو تناخوه يشك وتناشك Että ateekuna sieltä johsikko, että huut, että jaunahkossa, kun te atekaa, koska jakon kanniti, että
Galchish, ʻuʻeʻi sa'axi. Yewa ʻaqtuasaku ya yidat Tlingit q'inach adat yuq'aqachtilla atki. A itxawe tletxa q'inach qanaxawe idegach kakwadashi an. Yashkalnik tlaqanachlitzin atuyeti ya atlein wa atwasku ch'awkudach aya. Atlein qunanatsu has awsaku yashkalnik. Ade aya qun katilniki ya wanqanins ch'aqutiete. Ye away tleinach weqa deslin adakhawe hutsu chishukushkalnik aya awsaku. Qa we achi decha achi aya weshkalnik atuyeti ho awsakuun we achi. Wasa atka kwaneqo we achi ten qa weshkalnik tlein. Aduso uyech Yesu hastituyeti weshkalniki we achik. Ne achoweachtuasaku shukwa aya tlel watu do yuqatangi. Just ye aweachtuasaku tusaach tuqeidch. Wasa yituuch Tlingit q'inach sa yadasa wasa ituuch. Aqa awitlet q'inach tletsa helwasa qoti.
Kedin wa'ach gaeskucha nach yafsheti Xóotsx Shaawát shkalneegí.
Yawa.
Tlidzi away wa'achi kunach yete shkalneegí sati away.
Yawa gachtutu wuchin so nakitlan awe yudusagan we qa tluknach ati yaqtat awe atach qaqunnachu. Dudachkan awe qunak awe duq'eidch awe akawshachit weta qa atlein yel shkalneegí yel qutlaq qunachawe shkalneegí tzati qatu yuqatangi aya qunachawe yage qach yage qa gwal hatuwasaku qunach awe we hijosaku we ch'aku qaku yach gwalisaku we shkalneegí aya ye awashkatulnik wanqanins we tlidzi yuqatangi atqtuliech. Dasatsu Johan. Tletqaq enach again.
I wanted to ask about the very last phrase. And he said, I don't know anymore. And did he say, I don't want to make up?
Yeah. Tletcha ade qunalli yede ʼayaaxuwdlig. Tletcha huj. Ye awe. Wan qanins we chishugushkalnik awe wa'ach. We do yetki aya ye awa u. Aqa awe hastu ani ḳusteeyí wudda has wudda art. Aqaya du ik has awe aqewa wus hetlwasake uti ashkatilleti awe yetkitin. Ho awe yaqa hetlwasaka qati. Hel awaskuqa ahasitowasaku du yetki has awalun. Hechwasaku wannachsawe. Awsatin eqa chunit aya an has auskautliyat. Ajawe Xóotsx X aqa has juutakut. Qanachawe awajaqawe du ik has. Kingesi awe haina kawani kadat. Hu awe buqaq ajawe adati utuwatan. Wasa atpune qatatyaqsa du ik has awe awajaq. Yewe qoa aw sakhanin awe dukhukh hu awe aw sakhan du yetki. Aqa awe adakhu art tlelqukhteeyí wudakut. Eko genki chushugu awe cards. Chagutat qoa we qa Xóotsx wush has wudasha. We dayakh qoa we Xóotsx yetki. Tlingit ani ke has wuti. Qa ukhke aya wuti tlekatastu ḳusteeyí. Ye awa ya nakatlan we chagutat du shkalneegí tu we chagut ye llnawu. Ye chudechi gwalgachi tu qa gachisa chudechi hajiwu yidat we dua achjiat. Ajoyach tuwasaku tsukayi aqu we shkalneeg aya kedein gachisa achi. Okay, gunchish Shaháan, gunchish.
The phrases that he used were so old. I heard some of them for a long time, and it really was wonderful. I had to stop and think about some of those words. I think the way I took it when my dad told the story is about watching what you say when you're up in the wild about animals and make insulting remarks. That was what I picked up on when I heard the story.
Okay, yeah, Sheesh. Okay, we'll switch to English. Anybody have any thoughts before we'll take a look at it and start going through it as well. But I wanted us to just hear it first. And it's pretty fun because sometimes in the past few years, we've had these really neat moments where we kind of find these recordings. These were the recordings that Nora Marks Dowenhauer and Richard Dowenhauer worked off of. And sometimes some of them we kind of lost track of some, and then other ones, it turns out, when we did the Tom Peters version of this story, we listened to it, then we realized, oh, there's two recordings. So then I had to go find the other recording and sort of splice them together. This one, we actually didn't know where it was, and Fred White made the recording, so we were asking him, and he's like, I got it somewhere. And then, he found it just the other day, and so I went and picked it up and digitized it. So we could, there's such a genius in going through and getting multiple versions of the same story, because you could come back and look at, like, this is how it's told in Yakutat, this is how it's told in Teslin, And this story is told all over the place, like all over the place. And so it's really neat to sort of think about that. And there's some key themes and terms. He uses a lot of parables in this particular version. It's Yakutat, so that could play a factor in some things. But I'm sure we could understand a lot. But he also uses a very elevated form of Tlingit. So there's a bunch of, some of them sometimes because of particular parables. So it's sort of like a bit of a turn of phrase, but then other times it's just really big time stuff. Probably older when it was recorded, so maybe there's a little bit of just it's a different era, right? And so just listening to the masters sometimes can be a bit of a, like we did the whole, like what I was showing you with the river thing was just these different terms I was thinking about. Because today as well, Katrina Hodge found notes. She knew she took these notes somewhere. A few of us had heard Joe Hodge talk about this thing that a salmon would say right before she releases her eggs, which is Tehin one chatuk. I've already begun to bite the riverbank. And they do that so that their babies know where to return to. It encodes that sort of information. And so I heard him say it like decades ago, and I probably wrote it down somewhere, but then I just couldn't find it. And someone asked me about it, and I remembered, and then we were talking about it, and she found that today, and Fred found the recording just the other day. So I was like, oh, look at these things like lining up. So I was thinking of it because Heen one is the edge of the water, but I think of it like, so like we were talking, Heen talk is in the water and all the way down to the bottom. And for a person, it's standing in the water and it's deep enough to submerge. Heen yik, you usually can't quite submerge in it. But heen yik is also for boats and birds because they can float on the water. So then that's also just sort of being generally in the river. And then the heen one would be the edge of the river, usually from the perspective of being in the river. Then heen ʼayaax is the point where the land and the water touch. And then heen yaax is this area alongside the river. And then there's a few other terms from there, but I was thinking about that stuff and then continuing to tie it back to these concepts of like diving into the deep language every now and then. So any thoughts before we take a look at this story and we'll read it?
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, it's an old recording, and then it's hard to hear it over the internet a lot of times. But they're, so I mean, I was losing them, but you can follow that storyline. Eh? It's like a well-known story, eh? And I knew it was from the coast because he's talking about Gunana and inland people. So I mean, I'm thinking, and I couldn't hear any Umsiteen or anything in there. So, but no, it's just wonderful to hear the kind of the rhythm, eh? Or how he paces that, eh? But,
yeah, it's sort of like we're in that riverbank, and then we just I had a friend, and they get stuck in it. We're all paddling down a river, and we were in a canoe, and they're in these two little kayaks, and we took this kind of a gnarly corner, and one gal, she had an inflatable kayak, and she got pulled by the current into this, you get this bunch of trees that go over. It could be pretty dangerous, but she was actually just kind of just sitting there, and she was totally fine, even though it was probably scary. And then her husband kind of like bombed in there on his canoe, and maybe that wasn't the right move because she was sitting there and it was scary, but the current had her boat pinned up against the trees, and then when he came in to help, like the current just carried him, and he just speared her, and then they both went under the luckily they didn't get stuck. They went under the sweeper, and then and so we pulled to the side and we ran to the riverbank to try and help him out. And then I saw the husband come by first, so I helped him, and he said, help her, and she comes by and was kind of struggling, strong current, and I was right on the riverbank, and I took one step, and I figured I'd step in and help her, and I was just completely in the water. It just went straight down like that. So that's probably about what it was like. You just jump into the water, and then you're underwater for 20. It's a 24-minute recording, so it's a long version of the story as well. But what I'll do is I'll post the recording in the same spot. So under resources and then audio, scroll down to the Hashuka section, and I'll put it in there so you can download it and listen to it again. And then we also have the story. This is one I think that would be really beneficial if someone wanted to retype it, because we could line it up. And what you'll see when we start to look at it is sometimes the English starts taking off. It just, typewriters and what the technology they had was effective for the day, but now we can sort of line them up a little more accurately.
Renee, I have it's just short, the words to a prayer that Mrs. Bobby Jackson used to say she called them grandmother to Xóotsx. Do you want to hear it? I have those words.
ʼayaaḳuwdlig.
Oh, okay. So she used to call it tlingit. So she'd say, ʼayaaḳuwdlig, tlech masa inach tu saniat aya. And Bessie would translate that as, we're not walking around to do you any harm. Ha'at chayi kach aya at watua at cha'iach. We are walking around for our food just the same as you. Ha shuda yagagu uhan tsu chayeha ḳusteeyí. Walk around us and we will be the same way too. So that's Mrs. Bobby, that's Keishi's mom, probably like 100 years ago.
Yeah, my mother never failed to say that before we go into the woods to get berries. Never failed. Always did that.
Yeah.
Back in 1979, I was in college for fisheries biology, and I told Dad I was going to be walking all the fish creeks with my partner on district, Chichikov and Baranoff. And I said, he said, he was telling me how to do it. He said, ordinarily, you don't want to go up the fish creek when there's bears, but since you're doing it for your money and that's your food, I'm going to tell you what to say. And he said the same thing as I've been hearing in books and in class. So I thought I was asking him, hey, Dad, tell me how you would say it if you had to say it. But he told me how it is said by Tlingit people. I did not know that until I started taking these classes. But I wrote it down, and you get the word breakdown in these stories, but I wrote down everything he told me. I called it fisheries biology terms. Tlingit fisheries biology terms. And then I see this diagram you had in class today, and it's like, it's pretty amazing that Tlingit people really did have this relationship with animals, fish, land down so good that they had these type of common sayings. That's like in English, you hear their common sayings. It's like don't take any wooden nickels or something like that. And in Tlingit, they got ʼayaaḳuwdlig ḵusteeyí, just like you, me too, looking for my food. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's like I'm learning what my dad told me 40 years ago in class today.
We're making a video, that series through Tlingit and Haida to sort of send to families. It's sort of like family based. We had some negotiations because we did like a hunting video, and then I probably didn't listen very carefully to the directions because like this is for like little preschoolers, and we're walking around the woods with guns and stuff. And so, but you know, there's a bit of a conversation to be had there. You know, like I think a lot of our people, like kids, are out there doing stuff pretty young. Like Sophie, she told me, I kill everything, right? She just went on like, I killed everything from the time I was real little. I was just, but just that perspective as well. It's like you're still respecting things. It's just a different way of life sometimes. But I want to share with you folks the thing. So we kind of went out in the woods, and then there was a couple moments like just trying to think of like, okay, someone's gonna be filming us. Then you have these chances to say stuff. And then you got to go back and transcribe and translate yourself. So this was what I said, and I'll show you guys the video. It's a real rough cut right now, but one of the things I think right before this, I probably said, one qanins hatuwasaku ha anikuk ayayu to sini. Aqa awich agag ayagatillayich yag. Ḥusteeyí you do a sock yag art. Achawe has to ideyuk akwatan. Hasu hesh has kakwasa yag. Has to nately ayah yata. Yatsinate you do a sock one qanins. Qanch ayah has to yegi ayah atchayis. Atchayach yatiki we. Ye awe tuchtatan. Ganchish hashil kohas haiti dishi yayagi. Yaha ani kuk aya hatu wasagu heshwasaka kwati hatat owe. Yachagu dach hatagu konkian konachawe has aushaguk ade adelun ye. Ye awe ye ide yuk akwatan. Hashil kohas Xóotsx X Ganchish owe. Cha ade hanayu. Yineli yi degachtu art. Kunachoy hatu wasagu ha iti dishi yayagi. Klethatua ushkuqa ayu tu satini. Cha ade hanayu. Wasa itu litzin. Wasa itu yeyiti yaqeqa litzini. Ye awe yayagi hatu wasagu. Just hashagun. Hastu yach aya kutusti. Ye awe kagachtu aq. Gunchish. Ye awe. Okay.
Thanks for sharing that, Shawnee. We were just talking about that the other day, Christian and I, and he was laughing because white people phrases are so funky. But I say some stuff my grandparents said, like hunky dory. I said that the other day being sarcastic to Christian, and he laughed and he said, excuse me? And I was like, what, you've never heard hunky dory? And he's like, no, that's whack. And it's true because you hear some old phrases and Tlingit and you're like, wow, it's so profound. And you like refer to your parents and they say stuff like hunky dory. It's just really I don't know. It's disappointing a little bit, but it's really cool on your end.
I know we haven't finished the orphan yet, and so we're awfully close. So maybe we'll look at this. You guys want to look at this now? You want to take a break from it, do the orphan? You want to do the orphan later? It's the wishes of the group.
I think we were at a very crucial point in the orphans.
We're on tenterhooks, René.
Yes, exactly.
Something bad's gonna happen.
How bad is it? We're mystery lovers.
Okay, so here we left off. Don't say bad things about the poor people. We just gotta send these stories to Congress and then let them know. It's not just the rich people we gotta take care of. Okay, so that's where we left off. She said, if poor people eat off my dishes, they're gonna ruin it. Yeah, and also don't say anything bad about the bears. So that leaves us here. Who wants to read it?
Xóotsx X Xóotsx X du ḳusteeyí ʻayaaḳuwdlig naadaayi ʻhéen.
Sheesh.
Oh boy. Xóotsx Xóotsx many winters. Many rich winters. I don't know. Xóotsx and du ḳusteeyí boutique, and that's call, not always calling the lifestyle. I don't know. ʻayaaḳuwdlig and good there. Naadaayi ʻhéen. Him around there always was. Okay, let's see. I got no clue.
Okay, no, you're seeing all the parts really well. That's good. So let's take this like one section at a time. And when we say ʻuntauxsawe or ʻunyagisawe, just on its own, if that's all you said, you'd say how many years or how many days. But if you say it and then you say some sort of verb, especially in a perfective, you're saying for many years. So this is an important distinction, like as you move forward with your ability to use the language in narratives, or ʻayaaʻuwdlig. So they were there for many days. They were there for many months. So in this case, she was wealthy for many years. And what do you guys think about ʻayaaʻuwdlig?
So that it wasn't heard.
Yes, yeah. So it was not difficult. And it's really interesting because this is a negative form. So you say yitik, it's difficult or frozen or hard. But in this case, ʻayaaʻuwdlig would be, it's not hard. It's easy, right? That's another way you could say easy. But then you have the decessive on there. So that's like, it was not difficult. But then I would assume it's going to get difficult because that's what the decessive is there. So you can also have ʻayaaʻuwdlig. I didn't know that, but now I do, right? So that's the combination of both the negative and the decessive. It used to not be that way. That's how I look at it. So her life was easy. It was not a difficult life. ḳusteeyí and good things. naadaayi. Again, so we have, in this case, a perfective decessive. So the good things were around her. But it's a bit of a, it's a bit of a cliffhanger, right? It's like, wait, what do you mean used to, right? So now we're going to get to probably going to get to what happened.
We need some music here.
Bumpa.
Soundtrack.
Okay, who wants to read the next one?
Take talk e teach ko yakudach wuna oweduchana. But one spring, I don't know what yakudach means, but her husband died.
Yeah, well, ʼayaaḳuwdlig is just like ʼayuk. There probably needs to be that on there. Have you heard ʼayuk before? Anybody heard ʼayuk?
Suddenly,
Suddenly.
I heard that as somebody's name.
Well, ʼayuk or ʼayaaḳ or ʼayaaḳuwdlig, they're kind of interchangeable. Like I don't know if this is a speaker preference or a dialect thing, but it means suddenly. And so in the context of like you're saying, oh, and then this one time this thing like suddenly happened. So that's what you're talking about. Like in this case, like it was an unexpected death would probably be what we're looking at here. So this is one that is also good to learn how to use. And then tlingit. Again, just thinking about how we talk about time and placing things. This is the formula for putting things in a certain time, right? So in the springtime, and then you have one of them. So one spring, he suddenly died, her husband. Probably gonna put a period there too, to make these different colors somehow. Oh, maybe I can highlight it. Okay, hold on a second. Now I can change the color. Okay, I'll make it blue so I see it. No, I'm not gonna see it, hold on. Okay, green, there, now I'll see it. Okay. Who wants to read this one?
ḳusteeyí ye away na teach. Du ḵuux'wnaayí a cut du utk a toot has a kujage.
Sheesh. And what do you think as far as translations go?
That's the way life is. ḳusteeyí ye away na teach. Du ḵuux'wnaayí, her husband died. A cut on the cut, everything or all. Do utki, do their children. I don't know, toot. Hus is they and akujh, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, ḥusteeyí ye away na teach. Like this is how our culture is. Du ḥuux'wnaayí. And so what this marker is doing is saying like when, so when her husband died, a cut the cut du utki toot has a kujage. People, So one is ʻatki is the plural form of ut, which you don't see all the time. Like a lot of times that'll just be adi, and it'll just be translated as things. But when it pluralizes and has shtikat before it, so shtikat du ʻatki, that means everything that was hers, or maybe his. Tu tas ukujej. Well, they took it away. So all her stuff was taken.
Would that be like her husband's stuff? Because he died, right?
Yeah, so there's some interesting sort of perspectives in here about like the way that widows used to be treated. And as we go back to other things, talking about like the way that she was talked about as a potential wife, like there's some things to probably examine about the way that Tlingit culture used to be. And it probably wasn't always this way, but it was like if a woman, if her husband died, like a lot of times she would just kind of leave the community. Like there was this a lady in Skagway who she just moved there after her husband died because, and it wasn't always that way, but sometimes it was. But it was probably because she was an orphan, and Tlingit people were not kind to orphans. That's just kind of a thing. So sometimes when we look at these stories, we also have to look at some things we say, oh, I'm glad that changed, or it's changing. It's up to us how we want to sort of look at it. But yeah, as we were translating the story, we're like, oof, well, this is how you say it.
Can you say the phrase, they took it all?
Yeah.
Get
So
a
cut
cut.
do atki tut has akujej.
I'm just wondering about that verb there, René. So, like what I see in Nation Story is akujef.
Oh.
So
yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Good catch. Really good catch. Yeah, it should be Jace, because that's to pack stuff. Sometimes it's multiple trips, or all of one type of thing. Goodness, sheesh. Okay. Okay.
The women that marries she leaves her hometown and goes to live in his house. So if he dies, then she's an outsider of the house, unless they quickly give her a new husband. But if this particular person doesn't sound like they want to keep her.
Yeah, and they would probably take note of some of that behavior as well. So yeah, and this is kind of getting your comeuppance a little bit in Tlingit. So it probably wasn't the case all the time, but certainly like if you're from a whole different community, or if you're not a high status person, like those were some of the realities.
Well, I think in her case, people were beginning to keep track. And it was kind of time for her comeuppance.
She's stingy with her things.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to read the next one? And yeah, always point out if you see something, just point it out, because yeah, we're trying to get this thing finished and out the door so that we can use it a lot more.
I can say it.
Jeez.
I can read it here. ʻayaaʻuwdlig Shaawát Xóotsx X. Her her fancy spoons and her fancy dishes, all of it.
Yeah, well. Next line. That was pretty straightforward. So it's just a list of things, right? So that's how you can also list things, is you sort of name a couple of the highlighted things and then you say shtakat, and you're like everything. You could also end it with dasa to say like whatever things, right? Who wants to read the next line? Good 9 minutes to get to the end.
Away tush unashki to kanishkitek was tea way cow. Away is sometimes.
And then?
And then tush unashki. Can't remember what unashki. We just seen that word too, didn't we, in this story?
Shidnach is wealthy. So tesh ushnach.
She wasn't wealthy anymore.
Yep. She was broke.
And well, Sue is in another like.
Well, Sue, like a high tone Sue, like usually at the end of some sort of list or something is also, and then a low tone Sue coming before the verb usually means again. Su'ach in kananik.
Yeah.
Tsukakwacha. Yewe quarantine ḳusteeyí. I'm gonna eat again. And then what about kanashkidek?
The last time I seen this word in this story, I was like, I don't know what that is, and I can't think of what.
Yeah, it's an important term in Tlingit, but it's also one that you hear in the
I feel
old
like it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, poor again.
Yeah, it's the poor
Somebody in need.
Oh.
A needy person.
Yeah, somebody in need. It's in Tlingit, they're the ones that we think of and the ones that we help. But if this is something that some people will also say to just sort of kind of humble themselves, let's say, just I'm just a poor person, but I'll help. So she was a poor person again at that time. Weigao, right? That's what the weigao does at the end, is at that time.
Oh.
Okay, somebody's got a nice long sentence. Who wants it? Be ambitious.
No, 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm hungry.
Well,
Oh.
Yeah, has to ye hasuji hes ushheit ach away kanashkide do ik has heltasa has to ji kawasa tel tulaan has to im ach away wune. I'll try. So that their people buy them. I guess in Tesla it's Dakaku'u, the people around, those people who are around, they thought or they believed. Yes, she was unlucky because those poor ones, her brothers, they didn't have anything. And how she was not kind with them. And so, Yewuni, and so it happened so, because it happened so.
Yeah, and that's why it happened. Right. Which is interesting because they might be the same ones who just came to take her stuff. But probably not. Probably it was probably a specific group. It was probably her husband's like clan and stuff. And so
She had two rich brothers too, right?
yeah, she did.
Who knows where they are?
Right. And did they come back? And well, we'll find out in the next page, perhaps.
Can you go over that ḥusteeyí?
Oh, sure. So in this case, you have ḥusteeyí, so next to them, ḥusteeyí, the ones who are who live next to them. So there's quite a few ways to say some of these things. Like this could have been ʼayaaḳuwdlig, the people of the village, ḥusteeyí, the ones who live around them, ḥusteeyí, the ones who live among them. It kind of depends on how you're sort of referring to it. But this verb is like, it comes down to like to live somewhere. And so there's a noun form that gets pulled out of this verb, which is ḳu'u, which is people. And so you can have yidatqu'u, the modern generation. It's a good word to use as well, as opposed to ḳwān. So ḳwān is like, that's the people ancestrally from a place, like Sheet ḳwān. If I move there, I'm not Sheet ḳwān. I'm not ʻayaaḳuwdlig. I just live here. And so that's the difference between ḳu'u and ḳwān. So you can have Juno ḳu'u. Yeah, that's a whole bunch of people. That's all 35,000 people that live here. But not ʻayaaḳuwdlig. That's the people of Tlingit and Wushkitan, Yechtetan. And so in this case, there's this other thing, and that should be low. So you have basically, we're seeing this pattern that does emerge, which would be verbi or verbu, the ones who do that verb. And so you say, and also like ʻyaʻquwdlig, ʻqusteeyí, the strong ones, the good ones. And so ḥusteeyí. I'm probably going to take this hus out of there just for simplicity. And these sentences are really interesting because going through them, like this is the kind of the brush up phase as well. So you guys are part of the brush up phase because we sort of translated them with, and this one started with George and Marge, and then it ended with Xóotsx, Ann Johnson, and Xóotsx, Herman Davis, and Dastiya, Ethel Mackinnon. So they're the ones who took this story to the finish line. And so sometimes as you're going through chunk by chunk, they'll translate it, but then we didn't always have time to read the whole thing back because they would catch some things. We're like, oh yeah, we didn't have to say hus there, and just sometimes it's a clarity thing, and sometimes it's an extra word here and there. And then a lot of times I wrote it down wrong.
So you said ʻku'u are the people that are there, but not necessarily they're ʻayaaḳuwdlig, people that are originally from there. Did you say ʻayaaḳuwdlig?
Yeah, so ʻku'u would be the people who live there, and then ʻquān would be the ancestral people of a place. Like, so that's where we sort of look at those lists of the clans, because you got all kinds of clans who live in all kinds of places. But, this is how you recognize, like, who are the ʻayaaḳuwdlig. And the ʻayaaḳuwdlig would be the high caste people of the ʻquān. So that's who should be the ʻayaaḳuwdlig. So if you're looking at Sitka, it's, it's ʻqiqsadi, ʻlluqnaq'adi, Kagwantan, Duq'luidi, and shkalneegí. Like those are the clans of the area. And there might be lots of other clans who live there, but technically they're the ku'u. But you know, if you're Tlingit, you got a clan somewhere. But when you live there, you're a little bit more, you got a little bit more status, and that's the way the culture works, you know. And so that's why we sort of keep track of those things. We'll just take it to the end. Ye'awayich atuwaqa. Hesh iyach. Oh, I'm probably gonna do this. Hesh iyach we qanashkiteq. Niktain da ineq. Hesh etukla keke kwati ʼqusteeyí. ḳusteeyí ḥuassallanaalx weqa. Hastuya ʼayaaḥuwdlig. So this was put together using some of George's words from another talk that he gave. And so it's like, this is why it is, and so it is said, the people who are like you, the poor people, they're like you. It doesn't matter, right? They're like you. Niktain. Oh, I might put ka here. Het iyach kanashkiteq ka niktain da ineq. So don't talk to them in hurtful ways. Hesh ituklaani ukhkek kwati ʼqusteeyí. When you are unkind, your life will go out of control. Ḥusteeyí ḥuassallanaalx weqa. Hastuya ʼayaaḥuwdlig. It doesn't matter how wealthy a person is. Respect them. Yewe yanshuwatan yashkalneeg.
You have too many ands and ʻitutli'an.
Oh, there's got to be two there.
Really?
Yeah, the ni is the conditional suffix. But yeah, that's a good spot. But I do think, and so that's why there's the K in there. So you're going to get a conjugation prefix, and then you're going to get ni on the end. But I'll double check. I'll make a note to double check it as well.
I have a question about the sentence above it. Hesh iyach we kanashkiteq ka niktain. So you are like the poor people, but why is there a hesh? I mean, it sounds like it's negative. You are not like them.
So this could also be like that, right? But I heard him say hesh when he said it.
Uh-huh.
But what this is doing is it's tied to this. So this is how you get a prohibitive, is you get like technically you should have shlich instead of hesh or tesh, but it's kind of almost interchangeable these days. Then you're gonna get a verb with this prohibitive suffix on there. And so like tesh ichaq, don't eat it. But then what we see is you can have other things in between, which is really interesting. It's sort of like it's opening the door for the prohibitive. Don't, to all these people here, do that thing.
Okay. Okay.
Like, gunchish kunachoi ach iti deshi. Wasa hastu iqa hastu ya khayakhat butlatish. Shakshani kakakwan ish. Ade awa ach inye hastuwaniye. Ach nakuhusatiyan. Ya chakutatsu atlain Tlingit qinach yuqalla atki hanaqhaswu at. Haji ʼayaayi tiqo'a hastu yuqatangi qa hastu tulla'ani. Hastu atwusku. Achoeach tu yake wuchin yejitune akuk. Gulchi shuhan. Tlachonach yake awe ade ha yuqatangi. Stuyil tu ya. Wasa yake Gulchish. Kadain shil saka kadain yejinetsu. Yasandi qakshui. Ach tu yake. Gleit aya katlan yag. Wal akach aya ashkakillet. Yake. Kalach tuashku. Daki ski diqoa. Kedin ati Kedin at nai Gunchish.
Gunashchish Ziagin.
Ish.
Gnatish.
Gunchish.
Nathan, I wanted to say, Nathan Jackson received a national award as a Native artist. They said the highest amount of cash prize ever, $50,000.
Oh, yes, yeti.
Yeah, that was announced tonight.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
To give him a call.
And he won't loan me $5.
Yeah.
They told us it doesn't matter how rich you are, you gotta be nice to everybody.
Yeah, we just got through talking about that.
Okay.
I'm going to call him.
Johan Gunchish.
Gunashchish.